asked, hey, is this going to be, and it is being recorded, so I'm just going to start again. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're excited to have you join us. We have a very captive audience today with over 100 participants on the webinar, so we are really excited. My name is Shonda Harris, and I'm a business opportunity specialist with the Columbus SBA, Small Business Administration. We're grateful that you've joined us today. Today's webinar series, it's a series that we partner with Procurement Technical Assistance Center. They recently changed their name to Apex Accelerators, and we are focusing still on doing business with state agencies. So we're really excited. We kicked off this series at the beginning of January, and we focused on some Ohio Department of Administrative Services, as well as Ohio Department of Transportation. And today's webinar will be focusing on doing business with Ohio Rehabilitation and Corrections, and also Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So what we're gonna do is, if Patrick Means is on from Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and then Jennifer Conway and Richard Clark are on from Rehab and Corrections. So because we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, if Patrick Means is on, we may have Patrick actually go first and then have Ohio Department of Rehab and Corrections to go second. So Patrick, if you are on, if you can say hello to us.
Hi, everybody.
You are on.
I
okay.
am on, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did some, I know I promised I would be here at 11, but we did some rescheduling, and so I'm here for the entire meeting. So thank you.
You know what? All things work out together for our good this morning. So it was meant for you to, we're glad that you were able to rearrange. So what we will do is, to kick things off, we'll kind of switch order, and we'll allow, we'll hear from Sharon Hopkins, and she'll tell us about PTAC, now formerly Apex, now Apex Accelerators. And then after we hear from Sharon, Patrick, we'll have you go ahead and kick us off, and we'll start with you, and then we'll do Rehab and Corrections second. So after Sharon goes, I'll go ahead and kick it off to you. We'll make sure that you can upload your presentation. Will that work for you?
Yes, let me do this.
Okay. When we have a few minutes to hear from Sharon, she's going to give us an overview about PTAC, and then the name change that they've recently undergone. So you have a few minutes, and then she'll kick it back to me, and then we'll go with you.
Okay, so all I want to do is just make sure I can share my PowerPoint.
Great. I think, yes, let's go ahead and do that.
All right, let me share my screen and see, make sure everybody can see my PowerPoint.
Okay, and while he's doing that, just some little housekeeping things. We will, if you do have a question, once we go through the presentations, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. That looks good.
And so if I do this, if I share this as the entire presentation, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if you can take off. It also has the notes.
Oh, it does? Oh, okay. So let me see if I can switch screens then.
Okay.
Oh, let's see. Let's see if we can do that. And share, and let's try this one more time.
All right, that's a beautiful background. That's perfect.
Is that it?
Perfect. That's it.
Okay. So Shanda, would it be okay when I'm done presenting? I'm fairly new to Zoom. We do a lot of Teams at Ohio. If you would help me make sure I remove everything from my screen so the next presenter can present, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome.
All right. So what we will go ahead and do, the recording, yes, is going on. So while Sharon Hopkins from the Ohio University Apex Accelerators, formerly known as PTAC, we'll go ahead and kick us off and share a little bit about what the Apex Accelerators do, who they are, and then how you may possibly get engaged with them. So Sharon.
Hi, thanks. So I'm the director of the Apex Accelerator at Ohio University. The university covers 62 counties in Ohio, and we start in Northeast Ohio around Cleveland and that corner, go down to Akron, which I believe our Akron person, Helene, is on the call today. And then we go across the middle of Ohio, and we include Columbus, and down to Dayton and Cincinnati. And then, of course, I'm located in Southeast Ohio at Ohio University, and I work out of the Athens campus. So with that, some of you are familiar with the old PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We recently have changed federal funders. So we have moved from the Defense Logistics Agency up to the Department of Defense. How about that, federally? And then they are now funding federally the grant. The state of Ohio Department of Development actually provides state funds to help match the federal funds. And then Ohio University provides matching funds to the grant so that we can provide services to Ohio businesses. And of course, like I said, we actually cover 62 counties, and we help businesses sell to government agencies, and that's at the local, state, or federal level. We work with you to help you learn what agencies might buy your product. We help you with that research. We can do some of the research for you, but we help you with that. We evaluate where you're at and what level of government might be best for you to get started in. And then we help you develop capability statements, which is a marketing piece that the government often will ask for, that is basically a resume of your business. It's what you do, who you are, how long you've done it, who are your customers, and what makes you better than anybody else doing what you do. So those are the basic topics that we talk about and we help you identify. Then we also have a bid match system, and we will help you match your using codes and keywords, your company, your service, or your product against what the federal government is buying. Then we also can help you once you've found maybe a solicitation you're interested in responding to. We can walk you through that process. We can answer your questions, and we can kind of give you guidance and look over your proposal at the end to give you maybe new pointers on making it better. And then after, hopefully you're awarded the contract. After that, we also typically get involved mostly in helping you get paid. Because often people don't pay attention to how to get paid in the solicitation process. And once they've been awarded and they're working their contract, they're like, oh my goodness, how do I get paid for this? So we help you with those processes as well. Like I said, we recently switched our federal funders. We still are doing basically the same things we've always done. The other piece of what we do is training. We work, or we're constantly partnering with other entities to help you train. And we, like Shonda said, we work with SBA. We do at least monthly trainings with the Columbus District Office, SBA, with Jill Nagy Reynolds and Shonda Harris. And we've been doing that for a number of years, and we're continuing to do that. We right now, you're here because we're in the middle of a series on selling to state agencies. So we welcome you. We had a great response to the series. So we're pleased you're here. And with that, I am going to turn this back over to Shonda to get things going, because you want to hear from the state agencies. So welcome and thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Sharon. We love working with our Apex accelerators. And as Sharon said, we are excited about everyone being here today. Great turnout, over 133 people registered. So I know some people have just joined. Again, we are starting off with doing business with Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and this is being recorded. And so once the recording is finalized, it will be posted on the Apex Accelerators website. It takes about a week to get it finalized, but it will be posted along with the presentations. So you can have access to that. And Sharon, I believe, has already put it says PTAC, but ptac.ohio.edu. The link is in the chat, so you can access this probably about sometime next week. You'll be able to access this in the slides. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenter. Patrick Means is the Agency Procurement Officer with the Office of Budget and Finance at the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. He's going to go ahead and present. Patrick, with your slides, if you do want to also show, if you're able to show some things on your website, we do have time for that. So while Patrick is presenting, Jill, if you do have questions, please go ahead and type those in the chat, and we will have Jill Nagy Reynolds to monitor the chat. And I'm going to ask if Richard Clark and Jennifer Conway, I'm going to email you my cell phone number and then see if we can talk on the back end to get some things worked out with your presentation. All right. Without further ado, Patrick, we are going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you. Can everybody see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Patrick Means. I'm the Agency Procurement Officer with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And I want to share with you a little bit about the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So the Department of Natural Resources has facilities, parks, wildlife areas, nature preserves, oil and gas, mining, drilling operations, remediation, coastal management. So we're really from the Ohio River to Lake Erie, from Indiana to Pennsylvania, Kentucky, West Virginia. It's all 88 counties you can find Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And I want to share with you that because it's such a large area, it's the entire state, and there's some very remote sections of the state where DNR is. DNR is highly dependent on Ohio small businesses. We really need Ohio small businesses to help us out. I don't think we could operate as efficiently as we do if we didn't have Ohio small businesses. And so I want to give a shout out to that. We do function well because of Ohio small businesses. So thank you. And just wanted to give you a quick recap, a quick rundown of what we're buying. So here at Natural Resources, I like to say we buy everything. We buy everything from multi-million-dollar research vessels and helicopters to pencils and pens. So we buy a lot of things, everything, mowers, life jackets, pumps. We have water treatment facilities. So we're always buying things. And what we want to do, though, and we need help from the small business community, is we want to switch and we want to transition as much as we can to eco-friendly, environmentally friendly products, sustainable products. So that's where we're really looking at our small businesses. And to keep that in mind, so we're buying a lot. To give you an idea, DNR has been in Ohio Buys in this entire agency for just a little more than a year. And through Ohio Buys, we've purchased actually more than $204 million in products and services using Ohio Buys. And we'll talk about Ohio Buys here in a little bit. And so when we're talking about using Ohio Buys, we're talking about individual parks are using it, wildlife areas, all the divisions. So there's 11 divisions within DNR. We're all using Ohio Buys, and that's our main, one of our main sources for procurement. And at the end, we're going to talk about what may be a really good fit as far as small businesses and selling to DNR. So we can go to the next slide. So my next slide is where to find DNR sales opportunities. So if you want to sell something to Ohio, to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, you have to register with Ohio Buys. We put almost all of our procurements out on Ohio Buys. There are a few exceptions, but nothing worth mentioning in this meeting. But it's out there. And again, $204 million in purchases using Ohio Buys. So if you go out and look at our solicitations, look at our specifications, look at our delivery requirements, look at all those things. And our goal is to always have our solicitations out in Ohio Buys for like 2 weeks, sometimes even up to a month, if we want you to come out and look at a facility or something like that. And we do that because we know that you as a small businesses in Ohio, you need an opportunity to look at that solicitation, look at what we're asking and ask questions. Do you have questions? Do you know of a better way we could do this? We're not opposed to if we put out a solicitation and we say we need to have product X delivered at all these locations and this is how we want it done. If we get a response from 2 or 3 companies that say, hey, there's a better way to do that, we're not opposed to taking that solicitation down, issuing an amendment and making that change. Will we do it all the time? No, not all the time. But we do value that input. And we then also take that input that we get from you as you ask your inquiries and questions during our sourcing events. How are we going to take that? How can we take that information and make the next purchase that much easier? So really, we're dependent on you, the small businesses, to look at all of our sourcing events, our bids, RFPs, all of that within Ohio Buys to see if we're making sure we're meeting your needs. We have our needs, but if we're asking for something that's unrealistic, we may not know it, but you'll know it and you can help us out, and we appreciate that. When you look in Ohio Buys, I love this next slide. This is just one page snippet of what you might find as far as bids in Ohio Buys for the Department of Natural Resources. There's services, there's products, there's large purchases, there's small purchases, services. And when we post a solicitation in Ohio Buys here at Natural Resources, a minute ago, I talked about 10 days or even up to a month. So if we're looking for a product, say we want just a rubber tire backhoe. So we want that, and we're doing that. We might post that for 10 days. It's a product. It is what it is. Shouldn't be a whole lot of questions. But now here's Fountain Square, Fairgrounds and Plantings. That should be posted for a month. And within that solicitation, we're going to ask you to participate in a site visit, to come out. And that's why we post those for a month. When it's a service and we want you to come do a site visit, we'll try our best to post it for a month, because we really want you to come out, look at where the project's going to happen, look at what we're asking. And then also it gives an opportunity to ask questions. One of my favorite, I have to share this with you, one of my favorite stories was we had a small business. This is a minority business here in Columbus, and we needed 25 cabins roofed at Deer Creek. And so we got some feedback from some small businesses and some minority businesses, and they said, you know, it was too big a project for them to have their lenders give them all the money they needed up front for the materials. So we took that information and said, oh, well, you know what? We rewrote the requirements to say, do 5 at a time. You can do 5 of the 25, invoice, and then do the next 5. So let us know what we can do to help. Every time you ask, probably can't accommodate every need of every supplier, but we want to hear, because if we can't help, we want to. So we're flexible. We can do that sort of thing. And, you know, and then that change, that amendment was then available to everybody who wanted to participate in that solicitation. But again, we didn't know until we had these site visits, and somebody came up within the site visit and said, hey, we can do this, but what you're asking for doesn't really fit well with small businesses.
Patrick, there's a lot of questions coming through already. So we have one question. Does ODNR buy IT services?
DNR does buy IT services. We do.
Okay, and Sue S. would like to know, what is the contracting entity verbiage for ODNR in Ohio buys? That must show up in Ohio buys, I'm thinking.
Not the contracting entity.
Okay,
Could,
so it sounds like,
if I understand the question correctly, so it'd be who owns the contract. We do use some DAS contracts. We use a lot of those, but we also have a lot of in-house contracts. These contracts, DNR bids outside of the scope of DAS, Department of Administrative Services, Office of Procurement Services. We bid these contracts and we administer these contracts in-house. And that's a great question. So we have in-house contracts for everything from doing complex real estate appraisal reviews through creating historic marker signs. You know, if you go down the road and you'll see those really nice brown brass signs that say this area or this building is historically significant. Well, we have a contract just to do our own version of that here at DNR. We have our own in-house contract for treatment of aquatic vegetation, invasive aquatic vegetation. So the contracting entity that we use could be DNR. It could also be the Department of Administrative Services, Office of Procurement Services.
okay. And I'll see if she needs additional clarification.
Okay.
There's another question about Ohio buys. Are the items, right, are the requirements for construction or design? Say they follow the gamut, don't they, on Ohio buys?
So construction and architect and engineering services are considered construction, and they fall underneath the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. And you will not see those on Ohio buys when those are sent out for DNR. Those would be done through Bid Express. It's very different type process. And if Central Ohio Small Business Administration would be interested in having the Department of Natural Resources Division of Engineering do a presentation concerning construction and architects and engineering services, then we could arrange that for later. But they have their own presentation and it's very lengthy. There's a lot involved.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Another question, Andrea Woods would like to know about how to apply for a solicitation once it's posted, once DNR posts it on Ohio buys.
So when you go to Ohio buys and you look at the solicitation, and you can click a button that says want to submit a quote. I think that's what the exact verbiage is on it. And then it's going to ask you to log in or create an account. So if you're registered with Ohio Buys, and I encourage everyone in this meeting, if you are not registered in Ohio Buys, please register in Ohio Buys. And it'll prompt you to either sign in. And once you do that, then there's some fairly easy steps to follow to submit your bid. I do want to offer some very helpful hints when submitting bids in Ohio Buys, registering in Ohio Buys. Don't wait till the last minute. So if the bid closes at 2 o'clock on Thursday, and it's 1 o'clock on Thursday, and you go out to submit your bid, and then you realize you haven't registered yet in Ohio Buys, you're not going to get it done in an hour. It has to go through a few channels and some approvals. So your registration will do it. If you wait till the last minute to submit your bid, you don't have enough time to have somebody to call someone on the phone to correct a possible error that you've made. If you can't go back and correct that yourself, you don't have enough time. What I like to tell people, or I shouldn't say people, what I like to tell suppliers is if the bid closes on Thursday at 2, try to have everything ready so you can successfully submit your bid on Tuesday. And that gives you time to call the 800 number and say, I'm stuck. Something's not right. I don't quite understand what's going on, and I need some assistance. That gives you a couple days to get a hold of somebody, to speak to a person. And I recommend, if you're out and you're in the process of submitting your bid, don't necessarily rely on the email. See if you can call the 800 number and actually get a person to help you. Those are my helpful hints. I guess I do want to share this last one. When you're filling out your bid, pay attention that you're filling out all the required information. I would like to share an instance. A supplier called me and said, I can't get my bid to submit. I can't do it. So I was able to conference call, and we got the 800 number, and the person on the end of the 800 number said, well, your email address is a piece of required information for this bid. Type in your email address. They did, and then their bid was submitted. So it could be that simple. There could be some other issues, but again, give yourself time. Don't try to do it all at the last minute.
That is excellent advice in federal contracting. I just think in any type of contracting to give yourself enough time. I appreciate that. There are a lot of attendees that are asking if ODNR buys specific industries. And I will let you answer that, Patrick, but I also want to say that you can research the Ohio buys to see what type of commodities any state agency buys. So another participant wants to know if ODNR buys trucking services or training and development services is another one.
We do. We don't buy a lot. We do buy some. I would like, kind of elaborate on trucking us into transportation. We do buy transportation type services, not very often, but there's sometimes we have to have something moved, or there's also a time we have to have people moved. So maybe many of you here, if you're outdoors aficionados, you hear about natural resources winter hikes at the Hocking Hills. And so that's a huge event. That draws tens of thousands of people. And so we're buying transportation for people. So we're looking for charter bus companies or school districts with extra school buses to shuttle people from a remote parking area right into the park. And so we're buying services to move heavy equipment, and we're also buying services to move people. So for transportation, yes, we do. It's not like one of the heavy hitting like commodities or services that we buy, but we do buy that.
And that's not something I had thought about. Yeah, and I've been to the Hocking Hills Park, but that's a realistic need.
Yes.
Greg Pfeiffer would like to know when a project is awarded, is the awardee identified so that if we can help the vendor, we can so for possibly subcontracting opportunities. Could other businesses see who the awardees are on some of the contracts so that they could reach out for subcontracting?
At this point in time, that's information that would be obtained through a public records request. So we're not posting out on Ohio Buys at this time, like a bid tabulation that shows who won and who didn't. We're not doing that at this point in time.
Okay, just a couple more, everyone. I know everyone wants to ask him if Natural Resources buys their services, but for the sake of time, you can also, and Patrick, I'll let you answer like how they can find out more information, but does ODNR buy drone monitoring
Yes,
and heavy construction equipment,
yes,
traffic road sign, traffic and road signs?
we partner with ODOT for that.
Okay. Are in-house contracts not available to small businesses?
They absolutely are available to small businesses. So an in-house contract, the real estate contract we have for a review of appraisal, property appraisals, was awarded to a small business MBE here in Central Ohio. So as a good example, yes. And again, these in-house contracts are going to be posted in Ohio Buys for you to take a look at. They're open for anybody with access to a computer.
Very good. Okay, Seth Morrison, does ODNR use a coding system to define the product or service they are seeking that a qualified vendor can use to sort for solicitations?
I believe so. We use the United Nations Standard Products and Service Codes, UNSPSC, and we use those to notify suppliers. So when you register as a supplier in Ohio Buys, they're going to ask you what commodities based on those UNSPS codes are the products and services you provide. And so when you do that accurately, and then that way, if anything comes up using those codes, you'll receive an email that says there's something in Ohio Buys you may want to take a look at.
Okay, there are several people that are asking about an 800 number that you were referencing.
Yeah, I can get online and show that.
Okay.
But let me finish my slides.
Yeah, let's go ahead and
because I
okay,
really,
everybody, we've got, yeah, that's just a lot. What's the
Yeah.
website for registering with Ohio Buy, which is great. It's just there's a lot of questions.
yes. So I want to share this map. So when we talk about DNR all over the entire state, this is just state parks. So this doesn't include wildlife areas, oil and gas, mineral resources, coastal management, information technology, general services, water resources, geosurvey. This is just the parks. So we are over the entire state. And so I had a question at an SBA event I did way back in the fall. And somebody said, well, what if I'm not in that area? It doesn't matter. So if you are a small business in Cincinnati, Ohio, and there's a product or a service you can provide in Cleveland, please participate in our solicitation. Submit a bid. You know, we're not bound by locality. So you don't have to be close to, if you can provide that product or service at a competitive price, you know, think large scale, you know, think a huge scope, think the entire state when you're working with DNR. And again, I just wanted to say that because if you are in Cincinnati and you can sell your product or service in Cleveland, we want you to participate in our bid. We really do. We want that input. We want to be as competitive and have as many people take advantage of selling to DNR as we possibly can. I would like to share with you more than 3,000 suppliers have submitted bids on DNR projects. We haven't awarded 3,000 different suppliers. I please forgive me, I've forgotten what that number is, but the last time I checked in Ohio Buys, we had received bids from more than 3,000 different suppliers. So please join in all these other businesses. And if you're not using Ohio Buys, please start doing that as soon as possible. And again, it's not just DNR and Ohio Buys, it's all the state. There are also some local government entities that are now using Ohio Buys. So please register in Ohio Buys.
And there's several requests in the chat about how to do that. How to register in Ohio Buys.
Yeah. So
Okay.
when we talk about parks. So parks is a really good thing for small businesses because a state park buys resale items for their camp store. They buy little electric components to repair electric hookups at a campsite, or a piece of a plumbing fixture because like a lot of the campsites now have electric and water. Somebody will bump into one of those water spigots and break it. So they're buying all kinds of things. And so if your business is close to, or you want to do business with a park, you can go out to ohiodnr.gov, look under Parks and Watercraft, and pick a park. So if you find a park, you don't necessarily know who to call, but when you pick that park's web page, and this came from Dillon State Park, look at contact and hours. Look at that tab that appears on their web page. And this is the park's office number, and this is the name of the park manager. So these are the two key elements. So we're in Central Ohio. Allen Creek is a very large park. So you would go to the web page for Allen Creek State Park. You click contact hours, and you'd find out who that park manager is and the park office. And I would call and just say, hey, we're a small business. We provide these types of things. And maybe in the conversation say, hey, I would like to stop by and just see what your needs are and see what's going on. And so parks are in a very unique situation. So if they have to have a product or a service, there's a good chance that they need it today. So somebody breaks something at a hookup at a campsite, there's not enough time to do 10 days on Ohio Buys so that they can get this fixed. They need to go buy what they need right away, which leads me to payment cards. And I apologize for this line being here. I should have taken that out, but I wanted to show the money. So I want to share with you DNR using payment cards. So we have 952 payment cards in this agency. That's a lot. So we've got 952 people with up to $5,000 in spend on that payment card per purchase. Keep that in mind. So if there's a DNR entity close to you, talk to them because they have payment cards. And if your company takes a payment card, then you can converse, in your conversation, you can make a suggestion, say, hey, I take a payment card. These are my products and services. If you need something in a hurry, my company can deliver that. So keep that in mind. We buy $15 million, or well, actually more than $15 million in payment card purchases every year. That's every year. So it's quick, it's small purchases, and that might be the niche that your company needs. So keep that in mind. And that's with every DNR division, not just parks, wildlife, coastal management, geo survey, the list goes on. So keep that in mind. Lots of payment
Patrick,
cards.
while you're on that thought, so do small businesses need to be registered with the state of Ohio procurement in order to approach these park managers, or can they just be small businesses without that registration first?
You can be without that registration first, absolutely. So if you're not registered, we can still process a payment card payment if you're not registered. But now I would like to season those words with this. There's no time like the present to register with the state of Ohio. If you register as a supplier in Ohio Buys, you'll also be registered as a supplier in Oaks. And so that allows you to then be flexible. So if you're doing payment card purchases and you're not a registered supplier with Ohio. And so you go out and you look at Ohio buys and go, wow, now that's something I can do, but you're not registered. So I would suggest being proactive. Don't find yourself needing to register as a supplier with Ohio at the time a bid is posted. Be proactive and do that before you see that project or that product that your company specializes in. Be proactive, register in Ohio buys as soon as you can.
This is it really, really interesting
Yeah.
to me. So if small businesses go to like some of the parks managers, those simplified purchases, does the state monitor them for MBE and EDGE participation, or they fall under, they're outside of that?
Would say that again, please.
So for the small purchases, like if a business doesn't have to register with the state of Ohio, just would the state of Ohio doesn't monitor the MBE and EDGE for those small purchases?
Well, I want to offer this. So in order for the state to obtain MBE set aside credit, it has to be with a certified MBE. So the Minority Business Development Division can help an MBE get certified, but in order to be MBE certified, and then you have to register. So again, register as a supplier and then register as an MBE set aside as a minority business. Do that. So I'm glad you brought this up. So in Ohio Buy, and we love to do this at DNR, is we'll mark a bid as MBE set aside, which means only certified MBEs can participate. And we do that. We do that quite often. We like to do that. So if you're a minority business, please register as a supplier with Ohio and Ohio Buys, and then also get your MBE certification. And unfortunately, I don't have the information with me to help you get certified as an MBE, but you can go through, it's the Ohio Department of Development, Minority Business Development Division can help you with that.
Okay, thank you.
Patrick, this is Shonda. I had another question.
Sure.
On the previous slide, you had where they could click on the info and get the park's contact information, and it had the name of the park manager and the phone number. There was also a button that they could email the park manager. Would they be able to email their capability statement to the park manager, as far as letting the park manager know all of the capabilities or core competencies that company has? Could they do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I can't help it. I'm just a big advocate of sitting in front of somebody and saying, you know, this is what I can provide. I love that face-to-face interaction where you get to know who your supplier is. But yes, you can absolutely email. And it's probably a really good place to start.
Now, is there a list of, so Frank Murphy, if you want to bid as a supplier for a construction contract, are the GC bidders listed on Ohio Buys?
So in Ohio Buys, when you say GC, you're talking about general contractors?
Yes, yeah. So the award, like the general contractors that are awarded the construction contracts, are they listed somewhere so that potential suppliers or subcontractors can see?
Okay, so that's not in Ohio Buys. Our large construction projects are conducted by the Division of Engineering, and they use Bid Express. They don't use Ohio Buys. They use Bid Express, and it's a whole different process from Ohio Buys. But you could go reach out or log into Bid Express and look at the construction projects. And I believe they do list who the projects were awarded to.
This is very helpful. Thank you. And then the fact that we have this many questions just shows that there's been a lot of information that needs to get out to small businesses. Does ODNR buy restaurant equipment?
Yes,
Okay.
not very often, but we do. Before we go too far, somebody sent in a question that said, if you register in Ohio Buys, is it for all state agencies? Absolutely. And other government entities are now also posting their bids in Ohio Buys. Cities, townships, municipalities.
And it sounds like, based on what you're saying, Patrick, outside of construction, that construction, like large construction, goes through a different site for the state.
That's true. So if your company's doing construction, so we do like, I would like to call it, I guess this would be the best term I could use to define it. We do like maintenance construction. So if it's a small roof, like we discussed, or the example I gave earlier was 25 roofs at Deer Creek State Park. That's done in-house. That did go through a DAS contract. It wasn't a major construction project. You'll find that type of work in Ohio Buys. Something else, small concrete repair. Something you'll see as the weather warms up and before camping season really kicks in, you'll see where a lot of campgrounds want to have the concrete inside shower houses, either new stone finishes put on the floor or the concrete treated. So you'll see things like that. Ditches and culverts repaired. You'll see things like that as far as construction. But as far as like a building or something like that, large construction, that won't be in Ohio Buys.
Very good.
Oh, there's a great question. May I read the question and answer it?
I'm just trying to keep up. Yes, I'm
Okay.
at 10:43 a.m. right now in terms of questions going through.
So
Yes.
one was, and the question's gone now, but was our WBE and Edge allowed to participate in MBE set aside? And the answer is no. I mean,
Yeah.
You can submit, but we cannot award to you because we can only award to certified MBEs within the state of Ohio and certified MBEs. And to be a certified MBE, you have to be in Ohio. So if it's MBE set aside and you're not an MBE set aside supplier, I don't think Ohio Buys is going to let you submit a bid, but if you could, your company wouldn't be considered for award.
Okay. Comment from Donna Keys. It would be helpful if someone could hold our hand through this process. And my answer to that would be, just make sure you're an Apex Accelerator client, because they really can help you through federal, state, and local government contracting. So if you are a client, just make sure you check back in with them. You may need more than one meeting or 2 meetings. All right.
It looks like we got time for maybe one more question.
Okay, Sue has another question about the Ohio Buys. We're looking at Discover and Learn, section of the ODNR website. The question is the opportunities related to data analytics, augmented and virtual reality, video graphics, are they listed in? Okay, so if it's listed in the ODNR side, is it also listed in Ohio Buys?
First, I'm not quite sure what they're asking.
So I understand just through the federal side. So for example, Health and Human Services might have a bid board. If it shows up on Health and Human Services bid board, it still has to be in SAM. So I think they're asking, does ODNR have a bid board on their website? Number one is, and if they have a bid board on their website, does it also have to be in Ohio Buys? So they don't have to look in 2 different places.
Right. So everything we purchase, and there are a few exceptions, is using Ohio Buys. Using Ohio Buys or a payment card. So, I can give you a very rundown. So when the Division of Forestry sells timber lots, they use more of an auction type format, and that's not in Ohio Buys. construction through the Division of Engineering is not an Ohio buys. But everything else, it's either with a payment card or through Ohio buys. So DNR, I believe, has conducted more than 4,800 sourcing events, which are bids in Ohio buys. So we're out there. Please take a look at everything we have. And while you're there, I mean, I would look at Ohio buys across all state agencies. I can't say that enough. I mean, small businesses, you are the backbone of Ohio's economy. You please register in Ohio buys and sell to every state agency that you can. That is I highly recommend it. Take advantage of it. It's there for you to see.
And for the sake of time, I'm going to let you finish up your presentation, Patrick, then I'll get back to the questions.
That
I'm
is it.
at 10:50 a.m., so I'll just make my way down. Or Shonda, yes?
Let's let Patrick finish his presentation, and then maybe he can, Patrick, if you can stay on, maybe the remaining questions you can look at and answer in the chat. Would you be able to do that?
I can. And Shanda, I need your assistance. So did I stop sharing my screen?
No, we can see
My desktop. So
your
That might
desktop.
be your desktop, yeah.
Yes.
So how do I stop that?
If you go to share screen, the share screen button,
Mm-hmm.
mine is green. You just click on that, and then it should pop up as, do you want to stop sharing? My share screen is at the bottom. I don't know if yours is at the top or on the side.
At the top.
Okay.
Well, I don't see stop.
If you don't see it, I don't know. Sharon, are you able?
Let me just log out of the meeting and log back in.
Okay.
Oh, I think I got it. I did.
There it is.
Yep.
While we transition, great presentation. So many questions and so much engagement. We love that. Everybody is excited to learn about doing business with Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So if we could end up, I think maybe with this, is there a way to get responses to vendor questions about specific solicitations? Patrick, is there maybe an email, or what would your recommendation?
So if you go out to Ohio buys, unfortunately, we didn't have much time. But if you go to Ohio buys and you're looking at a bid, a solicitation, there's a place for you to ask the question, and you can submit the question. And the policy at DNR is to provide an answer within 24 to 48 hours. And then you go back out to Ohio buys, and I'm pretty sure that when DNR responds to your question within Ohio buys, you receive an email that says, we've answered your question.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And great information. A lot of things that I didn't know. I believe ODNR buys a lot of things that I really wasn't aware of. So I think that's great for our small businesses to hear that there are so many opportunities for you as a small business to sell your goods and services. So again, thank you so much, Patrick, for your presentation. For the remaining questions, Patrick's going to look at the chat and go through and answer those for you. As it relates to some MBE and EDGE questions, I do believe one of the MBE and EDGE representatives from the state of Ohio, Tim Collins, is on with us. I know he's kind of chimed in and answered a couple things. There could be some generic things that may be answered in our next presentation. Our next presentation is going to be from the Ohio Department of Rehab and Corrections. And we have Jennifer Conway and Mr. Richard Clark. And Richard is the MBE and EDGE officer for Rehab and Corrections. And Ms. Jennifer Conway, I'm going to allow her to go ahead and introduce herself. So Jennifer, if you want to go ahead and If you can share your screen. All right, and just like,
Hey, good
all right,
morning.
good morning. And just like what we did for ODNR, if you do have questions, let's allow Jennifer to get a little bit into her presentation, and then you can submit those questions in the chat, and then Jill will monitor it. Patrick, the DNR awards to the lowest. Okay, so those that, if you didn't get your question answered by Patrick as it relates to ODNR, he is answering the questions in the chat. And maybe Patrick, you can put the person's name in the chat as you're responding to their questions. You can also include their name or put @ in their name so they'll know that is for them. So thank you so much. We are just excited. I think this is the most attendees that we've had on these webinars. So we are thrilled to have you participate with us today and also learn how to do business with our state agency. So again, without further ado, we want to turn it over to Ohio Department of Rehab and Corrections. Jennifer Conway is going to start off, and then also Richard Clark is going to present.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I am going to stop sharing my video so I can share the presentation. And the same with Patrick. I'm not as familiar with Zoom as I am with Microsoft Teams. So
If
walk me through this here.
I'm going to be your backup. So there should be a share screen button either at the top or bottom of your screen.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me know when you can see it.
Okay, it's coming up. There we go. Okay. Looks good.
Okay.
We can't hear you if you're speaking, Jennifer.
Jennifer?
How about now? It didn't show me as being on mute. So
okay. We can hear you now.
Hopefully I'm online and ready to go here now.
Yes.
Sorry
now
about all these problems.
No worries. Sometimes it happens, but
okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So good morning. As she had introduced, I'm Jennifer Conway, the Sourcing Supervisor for the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections Operations Support Center. Richard Clark is our DRC's Minority Business Administrator. And I just want to thank everybody for attending today and taking time out of your day for this. I think it's an excellent webinar series and partnering agencies and small businesses together. So I just want to thank you again for inviting us today. We have a few slides that I'd like to share from a high-level overview of ODRC, and then we'll get into how to do business with us. So I'll pause throughout the presentation a few times to let everyone sort of digest the information, and then we can move forward. I kind of want to echo what Patrick was saying. We are so large. We all across the state, there are prisons and adult parole authority officers. We touch every piece of Ohio. So as you can imagine, our purchasing needs are pretty vast. So this is a high level, and hopefully we'll have enough time to get down into the details of any questions that you'll have. So our mission is to reduce recidivism among those we touch with the goal of reducing crime in Ohio. One team, one purpose is the director's vision and is represented as each of our divisions overlap its functions in one form or another, and it is all related to procurement. And so I am going to briefly touch on some of our divisions. Okay. Our Office of Human Resources is responsible for recruitment, hiring, training, retention of corrections professionals. DRC currently staffs around 11,000 employees. We are currently focused on recruitment efforts toward filling some vacancies that we have. You can visit our website for opportunities. for employment or volunteer opportunities as well. You can find us on social media there. The Office of Prisons, excuse me, is responsible for the oversight of all the daily operations of a prison and the reentry related components of that unit management experience. This encompasses everything from shift presence to food service and daily activities of medical appointments and programming and recreation. Okay, so Parole and Community Services is responsible for the release and supervision of adult offenders who are returning to the communities from prison. It's comprised of the Adult Parole Authority, the State of Ohio Parole Board. We have multiple community corrections partnerships and also halfway houses. The Office of Administration includes the Budget and Finance team. We have Business Operations Chief, Fleet, Real Estate, Construction, and Ohio Penal Industries, all falls under the Administration Office. Holistic Services includes all of the medical operations, behavioral health, recovery services, recreation, religious services, the Ohio Central School System, and our Workforce Development Division. Workforce Development prepares the offenders for careers that offer living wages. And we provide education, training skills for a successful transition back to their communities upon release. Legal services, DRC administration is assisted by in-house legal services team. As it's related to procurement, they do assist us with contracts and prison services and infrastructure. The Chief Inspector's Office, they ensure persons under the supervision inside the facilities and in a community are treated fairly and appropriately. They monitor compliance with laws, rules, policies, and internal, external standards. Our Bureau of Compliance falls under the Chief Inspector's Office, and they audit each facility according to American Correctional Association accreditation standards. They also oversee the K-9 Division and Central Intelligence Units as a liaison to the Ohio State Patrol. So ODRC operates under multiple funding sources, general revenue being the largest by far, but there are multiple sources of grants and other funding sources that we rely on to operate. DRC is a leading agency in general revenue funding from taxpayer dollars. In FY22, institutional operations expenses represent about 62% of the agency total general revenue expenses for that year. So as just under $2 billion budget, the institutional operations is a significant piece in the management of incarcerated adults. So I've also included a map of our regions. They are grouped by north, south, and specialty regions. The specialty regions manage the female population, Franklin Medical Center, and our reception centers when they arrive to DRC from the county, and also the privately operated facilities. Each institution is unique in operational design and infrastructure. DRC has a decentralized procurement process. Therefore, each institution operates like its own city with all the components of a daily operation and all inclusive under that institution's allotment. Now, the Office of Acquisition and Contract Compliance that Richard and I fall under, we manage some of the overhead costs through our central procurement operation for the Operations Support Center. Occasionally, we will have statewide bids that would encompass all the institutions, but primarily most of their needs are met on an individual basis through their own budget system. Okay, so procurement process for the state of Ohio is pretty much the exact process that we follow with Department of Administration's guidance. Okay, I'm just going to hit a few highlights of this and to help you understand how a contract life cycle would work. Excuse me. So when you start with planning, you identify a need, And then you do the market research. That's where we're looking for those MBE opportunities and who can source the products and what's available for us. Each agency has an annual direct spending authority threshold with any one supplier for non-contract goods and services. That amount is $50,000. So purchases at an institution level or the centralized procurement level, any purchase that exceeds $25,000 requires prior approval from the Department of Administrative Services, and non-contract purchases exceeding the cumulative spend of $50,000 requires approval from the Controlling Board Legislative Committee. The competitive selection is used in soliciting goods and services. An invitation to bid is price-based, which offers clear specs of the need. The lowest bid from the most responsive and responsible bidder wins the award. A request for proposal is solutions-based, which does not clearly yet define descriptions of a particular project. Maybe we're looking for ideas and what your company can offer us for that need. Therefore, responses are scored and awarded on the best value. Once a contract is awarded and executed, the deliverables are established between the supplier and the institution or the agency. The terms and conditions of the agreement are monitored throughout the life cycle of the contract. Once the services are completed, invoices are submitted and reconciled, payments are processed. At the end of the term of the contract, a review is conducted whether to renew the existing service or solicit a new contract. The Department of Administrative Services, we refer to it as DAS. They offer and mandate some procurement contracts for all state agencies. Every state agency is mandated to use these requisite programs first, and a waiver would have to be provided if these entities can provide a good or service for another state agency. Ohio Penal Industries is the first requisite program, and that is a branch of DRC. It's self-sufficient, and it operates separately from a Rotary fund away from the General Revenue Fund. So they provide work opportunities and teaching work skills for the incarcerated adults to use upon release. The community rehabilitation programs, those are qualified suppliers that they employ individuals with some level of a work limiting disability. And then the DIS services, the Office of Information Technology, state printing, those are just intra-agency services that have to be selected first or receive a waiver before going to an external supplier. Ohio Pharmacy Services, DRC obtains most of the medications and small level medical supplies through the mental health and addiction services. They have first rights to any purchase, and then any non-contract purchase would be considered a direct purchasing authority. And the Ohio Facilities Construction Committee, as Patrick had discussed about the construction, A&E design and new builds, that is all run through OFCC. And excuse me, GIS contracts, there's different varying levels of them. There are some that are mandatory and some are optional use. And DIS has also negotiated some contracts that you will see referred to as state term schedules, master maintenance agreements, licensing agreements, service agreements, or master cloud service agreements. Now, existing contract options should be reviewed by agencies prior to contracting with an external supplier. However, don't let that be a deterrent for you to register in Ohio Buys to participate in bid opportunities. DRC and well, every agency has a need for a non-contract discretionary purchase. DRC falls in both open market and minority business. So please don't be discouraged because of the nuances of government and how we go about our purchasing our goods and services. So by law, we have preference programs that we can apply to our non-contract discretionary purchases. And these preference programs offer a discounted price point based upon your qualifications for any of these programs. Okay. Richard is going to talk a little bit about MBE and Edge, but as far as the Buy Ohio and Buy American, I'm going to touch on this first here. So if it's a supplier who is in Ohio, which such as yourself, or American sourced products, and if you're a veteran friendly business, now you have to be a certified business through the MBDD division. But you start off right off the top. If there is, say you have 5 solicitations in, proposals from a solicitation, I'm sorry. And 3 of those are suppliers from Ohio and 2 are from Tennessee or Florida. So the Ohio suppliers right off the bat would get 5% preference as a discount in your proposal. Okay, so if you only have 3 suppliers and you're all Ohio suppliers, we can't apply the preference. It's only for a competition that is not included in this preference program. So Richard, would you like to go ahead and?
Jennifer, we've got some questions before
Okay.
we turn it over to Richard, if you don't mind. Okay,
Sure.
so we have the restaurant equipment supplier. He wants to know how can he find out, like, if there are buyers or contract holders for restaurant supplies? How can he find out who those companies are so that he can introduce his product to current contract holders?
Well, DIS would be the authority over a contract presence. Each institution would have the authority to make those types of purchase for a non-contract item. So they would contact each institution separately. Actually, any of that type of information could be sent to my attention. Part of our contracting division is contract monitoring. And one of the largest contracts that we have is the Aramark Correctional Services contract. They manage the daily food service operation for the incarcerated adults, and they also provide a ranch reprogramming certification with that. So the management of that would be in a partnership between Aramark and DRC. So I don't know that any specifics could be offered without seeing what product that you'd be wanting to introduce.
Okay, Debbie Mixon would like to know about subcontracting opportunities through requisite procurement programs.
Well, Mary Ann Meyer at DIS, she is the liaison between the agencies and the community rehabilitation programs. So she would be the best contact to start that conversation.
Do you have a way of putting that person's email in the chat, or maybe we can get that person's contact information later?
Sure.
Does DRC rent heavy construction equipment?
Yes, we do. United Rentals does have a contract with DAS. Once I finish, well, actually, let's see.
And here's a good question about the Buy Ohio, Buy American. Do companies need a certification for that, or how does that work?
Not for Buy Ohio or Buy American. The agencies could ask and should ask the specifics related to the goods that you're buying and where, the location. But there is a certification for the veteran-friendly business.
Okay. Question about identifying state term procurement opportunities. Are there any medical supply term contracts? If so, are there subcontracting opportunities with these contracts?
Subcontracting would be the business relationship with a contract owner, and
Right.
that would be developed through DAS as the contracting entity.
Pruitt, I'm not sure they can answer. Where can I find getting a license for a halfway house?
I can put let's see, Cynthia Mauser
Oh my
is our
goodness.
director of that division. So I will put her information in the chat as well.
Thank you. Does DRC buy road signs or sign blanks?
Road signs. We would have to reach out. The community rehabilitation program for signage is the Cincinnati Association for the Blind out of Cincinnati. They do have a presence in contracting for signage, but if they do not offer it, then each individual institution or location could contract separately, individually.
Tanisha Hardy would like to know about providing staffing to correctional facilities.
The third-party administrator for staff augmentation is in Genesis. That is for medical and non-IT. And the IT subcontractor is the OST Incorporated.
What is Genesis? Is that a separate web platform or?
In Genesis is the contract owner.
Oh,
all
in
of the-
Genesis. Okay,
Yes,
that's
in
the name of the
Genesis.
business. Okay, I
Mhm.
gotcha. Sorry. And finally, and this is the last one we're going to do right now, is pre-employment screenings. Is there a need to subcontract pre-employment screenings?
There is a level of screening that is conducted through in Genesis. And our chief inspector's office, they have a backgrounds unit that does background checks and investigations and things such as that. So I do not see a need at this time while under the contract for the third-party administrator.
Now, how do you spell in Genesis in case firms want to do some research about them
Okay,
for subcontracting?
it's INGENISIS in Genesis.
Okay. All right. Oh, does DRC buy software development and IT services?
Absolutely. The IT is actually a large part of our daily mission to accomplish our management of the facilities.
Is that bought off state term, or would companies find IT opportunities on Ohio Buys? How would they find DRC IT opportunities?
I had this queued up when I heard Patrick.
Okay.
So this is Ohio Buys, the screen where you can find contracts. It's the public contract page. And if you go into like commodities is the component, the coding system that drives all of the activities in Ohio Buys. If you type in information technology here in the commodity code. You're going to find, see, there's an 8-digit number here. That information technology is such a broad commodity. So every level of detail that you hit in these 8 digits is going to give you more detail. Okay, so when you go to register with Ohio Buys, Patrick had noted that you can be alerted for certain commodities and solicitations that appear. So if you just search this commodity code, this is going to give you all the information that you need. These highlighted links can take you directly to that for the information that you're looking for. It tells you who the supplier is, how it was awarded, and it tells who the contract entity is. So here in the middle here, you have a public safety. DAS owns the majority of these, but then if it has an institution, then you're contracting directly with that agency. And you can see there's numerous results here. So, and it also will give you the information of the validity dates of that and what type of market that it was bid to. And it tells you the name of the person who was the owner of that contract. So this is a very valuable site. You can find, you can do searches by any of these field tags. and come up with the information that you're looking for. So I think that a lot of people on this call would find value in using this with Ohio Pies.
Yeah, so do they have to be registered as a vendor to conduct those searches? Or
Absolutely.
they,
not.
as a member of the public, they can just go in? So for example, we have someone wanting to know about trucking opportunities or community, again, the road sign contacts.
Mhm.
They could, if for the trucking, they could try and find their commodity code there, or transportation maybe, and conduct a search that way.
Yes, because this would be for all agencies. I've never searched for this one on this page, so hopefully this is successful. We put in the keyword signage. Here we go. So when I hit the search, it has the Cincinnati Association for the Blind. Okay, DPS has a contract with Morrison Sign Company for some road signage here. DIS and DNR have a requisite program. Looks like they contacted Miriam Meyer through DIS, and then she conducted a search and was able to help them with a supplier there. Okay, so for the sake of my original example, this is where you receive all the information. You can download any of these attachments and it will give you all the public information about these contracts.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll move on to Richard, if he's ready to speak on minority business.
Richard, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Sure. Can you see me and hear me now?
I can hear you. Oh, I can see you need to move your camera down a little bit.
Sure, sure. How's that?
There you go. That's good.
All right. Hey, good morning, everyone. I just want to show you my face here briefly. I'm gonna go to the black here for a moment so I can go through the presentation. My name is Richard Clark, and I am the MBE Minority Business Enterprise and EDGE Encouraging Diversity, Growth, and Equity Administrator for the agency. The long and the short of my job is that I make sure that a percentage of our agency's purchasing power goes to these two preference programs. My goal every year is not to just meet the statutory requirements of these two programs, but to exceed them. I also oversee the WBE Women-Owned Business Enterprise and VBE Veteran Business Enterprise programs. There are not many cabinet level agencies that have a position such as mine that work exclusively with these programs. This is a testament to our agency's commitment to these programs. The interesting part of my job is that in my space, I oversee these programs in 25 of Ohio's correctional institutions. Each institution has their own budget, and every year I assist them with developing a strategic plan on how they will assist the agency in reaching our percentage goal. We are decentralized, so think of these institutions as 25 separate businesses, if you will. I also partner with the institutions to assist with finding MBEs for services, and I review reports regularly, looking for missed MBE opportunities that I communicate to the field. Parole, OPI, Ohio Penal Industry, and several divisions within our central office fall under my oversight as well. In the EDGE space, we meet our statutory requirements in the construction space yearly. I'll discuss this program in more detail in a few. However, I meet with the construction folks regularly to make sure we are on pace to meet our goal. Prior slide, please.
I'm not positive I know how to go back. There we go.
There we go. All right. All right. Minority Business Enterprise. DRC goal, set aside 15% of total eligible expenditures for MBE programs. Certification, at least 51% owned and controlled for more than a year by an Ohio resident and US citizen. Belongs to one of the following ethnic groups: African American, Asian, Hispanic, or Native American. Ohio Revised Code 125.081 is a statutory requirement for the Minority Business Enterprise Program. Construction expenditures do not apply. Vendor recertification is required every 2 years. So if you are a certified MBE, make sure you don't allow your certification to lapse. Minority Business Development Division. From this slide, you can see the expenditures the state spent on MBE certified businesses from 2017 to 2021. From this slide, you can see that the state has met the 15% goal in MBE spend, hovering a little over 20% yearly. Everyone knows that there is more work to do. Next slide, please. EDGE, encouraging diversity and growth and equity. DRC goal, spend 5% of total eligible expenditures towards EDGE programs. Certification, residents of Ohio and members of one of the identified economically or socially disadvantaged groups. ORC 123.152 is the statutory requirement for the Encouraging Diversity, Growth, and Equity program. EDGE vendors compete in open market. Vendor recertification is required every 2 years, just like the MBE. So again, don't allow your certification to lapse. Eligible expenditures, supply services, professional services, IT services, construction, architect and engineering. But like I said before, DRC gets a lot of their EDGE percentage from the construction space. Next slide, please. VBE, Veteran Business Enterprise, and the WBE programs. For the VBE, at least 10% of its employees are veterans or in active service. At least 51% of the applicant business is owned by veterans or persons on active service. If a corporation, 51% of which is not owned by veterans or persons on active service, at least 51% of the board of directors must be veterans or persons on active service. The business is certified by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs as a service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. WBE certification, at least 51% owned and controlled by a woman who is a U.S. citizen, has an established residency in the state of Ohio or a reciprocal state. Currently, there's no statutory requirement for use of these programs. From what I hear, very soon there will be. Nonetheless, state agencies do look at the agency use of these programs. Next slide, please. Minority Business Development Division. This division supports the growth and sustainability of minority-owned and disadvantaged businesses in Ohio. They support all the preference programs. They assist with certification, bonding, and other service and several different loan programs to businesses. If you feel that your business qualifies for one of these preference programs, please seek guidance through the website, or I can assist you with getting in the right direction. And their website is noted there, www.minority.ohio.gov. And as mentioned before, Timothy Collins, he works in this space and he's been a great partner with assisting our agency in finding MBEs. Keep on going down. There we go. Minority Business Development Division State Map. MBDD has 7 satellite offices known as Minority Business Assistance Centers in 7 cities that offer a variety of services to the local businesses, to include certification assistance. A little over a week ago, Jennifer and I visited the Franklin County Minority Business Assistance Center, which is housed at the Columbus Urban League. The staff were friendly, helpful, and knowledgeable. These sites are pro-business and can help you get certified and offer ongoing support services after certification. Lastly, if you are a certified business under one of these preference programs, please send me your business information along with your capability statement. I'm always looking for new business partners and ways to help minority businesses have an opportunity to compete. Any questions?
Yes. Thank you, Richard, very much. Seth Morrison had a question about which office of ODRC is responsible for physical security infrastructure of the facilities? Who's the best contact for that? I don't know if you know anything about that.
I don't know much about that, but just from what I know, a lot of our corrections officers provide that security in most of our spaces, specifically in our central office location. But for the most part, we use our officers to cover a lot of our security.
Everyone would like to know your contact information. Okay, got 3 in a row requesting that.
Yeah, I'll put
So,
it. Well, you can maybe you want to put in the chat.
sure, I'm ready. Just tell me what it is.
Sure, it's Richard.Clark, CLARK, at ODRC.state, STATE, .OH.US. And I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna give you my cell phone number too.
Okay.
It's 614-969-9423. And if you'll send me your capability statements, also for our agency every month or every 2 months, it kind of depends on how the information falls. I do highlight an MBE in our newsletter, so all of our business partners within our agency has an opportunity to see what the MBEs are doing out there and the services that they provide. So yeah, send me your information and I'll make sure you get highlighted.
Okay. Where do we find our capability statements? Carlos had that question.
Well, usually when you get your business established, you create these capability statements. However, if you don't have a capability statement, some sort of statement of work or the type of service that your organization provides and some of the products that you provide, that's suitable enough for me to do what I need to do to get your information out there.
And Carlos, if you're not a client of Apex Accelerators, I would consider becoming one, because that's one of the services that they provide to businesses, is assistance in creating a capability statement.
Yeah, and also the Minority Business Development Division, like I said, they're in 7 different counties around the state. They provide some assistance as well. So yeah, partner with them as well as whatever's needed.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Another question from Kenya Salters Gordon. Do you work with Genesis to help provide ancillary nursing staff who are MBE? Ancillary.
No problem. No, we use them exclusively. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, but for those services, they pretty much, we tell them what the need is and they provide the need for us.
Yes, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we are low staffed in the nursing and medical field. So those opportunities for state employment would be listed on our website and our social media pages as well. But in Genesis would be for subcontracting, various LPNs, RNs, in that space to cover those vacancies as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Will this presentation be on the site? The presentation will be on the Ohio University PTAC site in about a week, as well as the presentations, if we get permission from Rehabilitation and Correction and ODNR to post them. So, and Kenya would like to further discuss nursing needs with someone.
Okay, Nicole Erdos is in our medical division of holistic services, and I will post her information as well.
Okay, thank you. I can't tell you how very helpful this has been. Who's Father Columbus, Richard? What?
Oh no, I was asked if there's any representation of my family in another area of Ohio. So
oh, that's funny. Yeah, so, I'm always the one that never gets the joke. So I'm like, here I am again. I'm like, what did I miss? No,
that's okay.
And to everyone that's participating, this has been a very valuable webinar, but I also want to let everyone know about the Ohio Business Matchmaker, which will be on May 3rd and 4th. 2023 at the Nutter Center in Dayton. Both ODNR and Rehabilitation and Correction will be invited to attend that. We have had representation from both departments in the past, and that would be an opportunity for you to meet with them one-on-one if they are able to attend. There's more information coming out about the Ohio Business Matchmaker very soon. So another question from Seth. Yes.
Before you go on, can you give a little backdrop about what the matchmaker is? And then
That would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Because there are a lot of people that probably don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Ohio Business Matchmaker is a collaborative effort between the Ohio Department of Development and the SBA Columbus District Office to provide a business to government matchmaking event. We've had this event for the last 15 years in Dayton, and it's an opportunity for small businesses to get in front of federal, state, and local government agencies to find out what agencies buy, what your business provides, how to get information about opportunities, and just it's a great collaborative day where you can meet with the Air Force on the same day you meet with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources on the same day with Montgomery County. So it's a big mix of a lot of different state, federal, local. We also get universities involved. So it's also a day of training. We do a day of training, a half day of training before the event, and then the full day of matchmaking the next day. So again, May 3rd and 4th. And
if I
the
can,
cost, yeah.
Yeah, and if I can, I would encourage, anybody who can attend to attend. You had one in July at the Nutter Center, and I met with quite a few different vendors, and I'm going to be honest with you, a few of those contacts are doing business with DRC right now. So,
oh my, you're a success story. Oh my gosh, I love to hear success stories. Yes,
oh yeah, we do follow up. When you give me your card and there's a service opportunity as the MBE, I'm calling. So yes.
Okay, here's I'm going to type in, it's the Ohio Business Matchmaker. Now, don't be upset. Like we're trying to get the website updated now. So last year's date might still be up there. We're actively meeting as a committee to put the event for May together. So if you check out the website, it should be in the process of being scrubbed from last year. So the date is May 3rd and 4th. So it's the week of Small Business Week. 3 months away. I can't believe that. Okay, any other questions?
There were a few questions
Oh,
that came.
Okay.
Yeah, starting back at 11:44, I think.
11:44. Does the event cost for the matchmaker? Yes. It's how much was it last year? Sharon, Shonda,
I
anyone?
can't remember. I don't remember.
It's less than $100 for early bird registration per person. And I think it goes up to 120 after early bird. And then at the door, I think it was 175. That's so that we can cover the cost of the Nutter Center. And then there's a reception the first night with appetizers. And then there's a catered lunch in on the day of the event. So that's what that cost is for. Okay. Oh, I think I forgot to ask Seth's question. Sorry about that, Seth. So for fire alarm CCTV services, which ODRC office manages this? A request for Jennifer Conway's contact information.
Both of our contact information is actually on the last slide of this presentation. So I will add to the list. What was the question again specifically?
About CCTVs and fire alarms.
Fire alarm and safety services is something that we are underrepresented for these institutions. They do constantly solicit agreements with providers. That is not something that is on a state contract. So I encourage you to make connections with any institution that you're willing to travel to, because I know that they look for those opportunities. CCTV, the technology base of our department, as I stated earlier, the divisions somewhat overlap. So that's going to be a security component, an IT component, and an Office of Prisons component. So I can find that out, and we'll have to follow back up with that.
Okay, another request for Nicole with a nurse staffing, her phone number.
Yes, I'll include that in the chat as we go through this. Then I will look up Nicole's contact information.
And a question regarding holistic services. Karen Dunson had that question. Hi, Karen, I remember you. A point of contact for holistic services.
Well, specifically, we know Karen. We've worked with
Okay.
Karen. Yes.
Yeah.
Specifically, you mean as far as selling to?
I would
organizations?
imagine so, yes. I'm speaking for Karen, but
If Karen wants to quickly unmute her mic real quick and chime in.
Sorry,
Karen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, there was a comment about a point of contact with the holistic services. And I was thinking in terms of course, medical products. I think someone else was asking about staffing, but there was a name that was brought up. So I didn't know if that was a person to start with.
Nicole
So-
Erdos she's the first person to start with when it comes to the overreaching medical services as far as staffing. And then I will connect with Nicole and let her know that I've given her contact information on this presentation. And if it isn't Nicole that can answer the question directly, she will certainly expedite your request to get you to who can.
Thank you.
And Karen, great to hear from you. Karen, you was also in everyone else. Like I said, a new MBE newsletter. Karen was featured in our last newsletter that went out to everybody. So yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We do make it happen.
a point of contact for translation services.
There was actually a contract just awarded through DIS for interpretation and translation services. It's Propio Language Services, LLC.
How would you spell that one?
PROPIO. Propio Language Services. And that is in Ohio buys.
Okay.
And that is a mandatory use contract for those services with an optional extension on that contract for American Sign Language.
Well, there might be subcontracting opportunities for the attendee. It's always good to know who the prime contractors are.
Yes.
Medical supplies and equipment. I think you spoke to that. But just in case.
The Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, since they are the requisite program, Stephen Knight is the coordinator of that as far as procurement opportunities.
Sina Knight, do you mind giving
Stephen?
her?
No, it's Stephen Knight.
Oh, Stephen,
Mm-hmm.
Knight.
Yes,
Do you happen to have a phone number?
I can get that pretty quickly here. Would it be easier for me, instead of trying to put this in the chat, would it be easier to give you this for you to enter it now?
Yes, I can. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Okay, so then we'll just do all of them at the same time here.
I've already got Stephen Knight typed in.
Okay. I'm looking him up in the system here. So Stephen Knight. They have a toll-free number listed for him as 888-471-5632.
And that's for medical services?
Well, it would be for medical supplies.
Okay, got it. Medical supplies. And it's 800-471-5632.
Yes, 888, yes, 471-5632. And his email is Stephen.Knight
Okay,
at mha.ohio.gov. He's an extension of mental health.
okay, thank you.
So I can give you Nicole's information too.
Okay, I'm ready. Nicole, Nichole.
No H, Nicole,
Okay,
and it's Erdos, ERDOS,
okay,
and her phone number is 614-995-0636.
okay,
And her email is probably the best way to reach her.
okay,
And it's Nicole, Nicole.Erdos, ERDOS. And then the email is the same as ours. It's at odrc.state.oh.us.
okay, thank you so much. And I listed those in the chat.
So as far as the community corrections or the halfway house information, Cynthia Mauser is the deputy director of that area.
How do I spell Mauser?
Mausser.
Okay,
Okay, so her email would be cynthia.mauser@odrc.state.oh.us.
can you repeat that, please? It's odrc.state.oh.us. Oh,
Yes.
okay. All right, this is amazingly awesome. Thank you so much to all of our presenters today.
Great. Are we ready to move forward? I'm not quite done. I still have one section that might
No,
get a lot of
yeah, let's
attention.
do it. We have, yes. I agree with keeping going. Shonda, you too?
Yes, yeah.
I'm
I thought
trying
you
to be
was, yep.
respectful.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, so construction and capital is our next topic that I wanted to cover. And again, this is a high level. This is such a complex topic with everything that we do that I just wanted to cover the basics. Chapter 153 of the Ohio Revised Code should probably answer every single question that you would have outside of how to do business with DRC. CAMS is our division that handles our capital improvement projects and also our sustainability efforts. Capital projects or purchases can be construction or a major equipment acquisition. Capital funds were used in the past few years for things such as a website enhancement or a security review in a forms automation process. So it depends on the dollar amount of the project, on if our CAMS division administers the project locally. The $1.5 million threshold is where the divide happens, or OFCC will pick up a project in the larger scope, anything that exceeds 1.5 million. So I put in a couple pictures here of some recent projects that we had that were going on. This is the nursery at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. Occasionally, women become incarcerated while they are pregnant, and this is an opportunity for the mother and the child to have the bonding time after birth. So it's a really interesting component, and as I said, every institution is very unique in their purpose and their structure. This is a new dorm. I'm not exactly sure which institution this was, but to give you an idea of the type of new buildings that we are building, and the dorms actually are aging. Our infrastructure is on an average 30 years old. So we have a lot of capital funded projects that are moving through this budget cycle, that we are in the first year of the 2-year cycle for the capital projects for the budget. Our total approved budget for this biennium was $400 million. And so CAMS has worked with OFCC to initiate what they call a master plan. It covered 5 bienniums, which is 10 years. And the major highlights of this particular scope is the deconstruction of the Orient complex and the old Orient prison, if you will. And we have new construction in process for 3 of the pivotal locations, being ORW, FMC, which is Franklin Medical Center on Harmon Avenue, and Pickaway Correctional there in Orient as well. So that's part of the master plan and some of our major focus as far as new builds. This is pictures of a high security outdoor recreation area. So as you can imagine, our steel costs and needs are increasingly high with the volatility of this market. Okay, so the CAMS division also handles sustainability, as I said. So each year, DRC conducts an agency energy audit, and each location, each institution manages their own audit. It's food waste, utilities, just breaking down every piece of our carbon footprint and how we can reduce that and pass savings off to the taxpayers as far as reduction in utility costs being probably one of the largest marginal costs that we have. So DRC does have a plan for zero emissions portfolio. I believe it was 2040. So I wanted to actually mention in the business matchmaker event, this was a great opportunity. One of the businesses that Richard has made contact with and continues to follow up is a small business, a minority supplier, and they have a patent on a pretty inexpensive product that can have a pretty significant impact on reducing our water consumption. So we're currently exploring the options of piloting his product. So I encourage everyone to attend these matchmaker events, and ODOT has an MBE supplier event that they're going to be hosting at the state fairgrounds in June. So I would encourage everyone to sign up for that and come out and see us. We will have a booth at any of these opportunities coming up. Richard and I will be there. So as far as sustainability though, and we did partner with OFCC for performance contracts in relation to the findings of our energy audits, and many of the institutions are retrofitting plumbing, electric, HVAC, and again, you know, water is a significant impact on our bottom line for utility costs. Okay, so I'm going to go into Ohio buys next, just touch on that a little bit and try not to duplicate what Patrick had said. Was there any questions before I get into that?
I think for the sake of time, Jill.
Yeah, let's
can
just
we
keep going. Yeah.
Keep going, yeah.
Okay. And again, I wanted to say that Bid Express is where OFCC posts all of our capital projects and any of our new construction. So I'm not going to get too far down in the weeds on Ohio buys. I just wanted to kind of give some visuals and talk about this a little. ODRC was an early onboarder of this process with this new e-procurement website and purchasing platform due to the vastness of our purchasing power. And we by far have more purchases and purchase orders than other agencies. DNR is right there neck and neck with us on the amount of business that we're running through Ohio buys. So it is really user-friendly once you get into it. A lot of the feedback and the challenges that were managed early on by the Ohio buys team have kind of worked out the kinks. And so we're moving in a much faster pace than we early onboarded. So they are continuing to onboard all agencies, commissions, boards. Everyone will be operating in this system within the next few years. There are some upcoming webinars that you can join. They have really great trainers that they're providing sustainment training for agencies, and I have nothing but positive comments to say about this training team. They have gone the extra mile. They work with anybody in any skill level for any sort of troubleshooting that you may have. And these opening onboarding processes will teach you how to get into the system, how to respond to these solicitations. And I think that after March, they may be taking a break until the next fiscal year. So I encourage you to make sure you get into these if you have an interest to register. We talked about commodity codes. Wanted to give a visual about the UNSPSC site that Patrick had mentioned. There you can search for any of the codes that your business can provide for us and what you would like to register to receive those notifications that Patrick spoke of. So I encourage you to come to this site and get your codes ready. And then when you're ready to register, you'll be that much far ahead in the process. And somebody had asked earlier about the IT presence. And before we wrap it up, I just want to mention some of the highlights of the technology that we have. In the last year or two, we've made significant strides in our IT presence. It enhances our safety, transparency of our daily operation. We're modernizing all processes, especially the APA processes. Inside the facilities, we issued Chromebooks to the incarcerated adults for remote learning experiences, and we deployed wireless networks. And that was in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and cohorting and, you know, the inability for everyone to come together in the small classroom settings. So drone diversion technology has been implemented at the prisons. And you may have seen in the news, we had a large installation of body-worn cameras, and we've purchased body scanners for contraband interdiction. So I just wanted to touch on those and make sure that those questions got answered, but that's all I have for today outside of the questions. So.
Well, thank you so much. And we've gotten a lot of feedback on, love the presentation, lots of great information. You made it a great day, so even better. I want to tell everyone, if you're enjoying the series on doing business with state agencies, we are going to have another webinar on February 21st on doing business with the Department of Public Safety and the Ohio Lottery Commission. So we have not sent the flyer out for that yet. So that's why you haven't seen where to register. You didn't miss it. We will be getting that out shortly, but I want to thank our presenters again. Thank you so much to Jennifer Conway, Patrick Means, Richard Clark, and all of the great information that was presented today. I know that I learned a lot, and that just goes to show, I get stuck in my federal world, and so we need to provide all services that we can, like education on all agencies and all levels of government. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Jill,
Yes.
can I add, thank you everyone for participating. Such great engagement. I think to date, this is our most highly attended webinar, and such great engagement and wonderful questions. But on January 11th, we kicked off the series with Ohio Department of Administrative Services. And so they did go a little in depth about Ohio buys, and that is on the OUP-TEX website. I just posted the link in the chat. So if you want to go back and look for that recording in the presentation, January 11th, and then we will be doing a follow-up with them, like now that you're registered, and they'll be going into depth on some additional things that you can do on March 8th as a follow-up. So you do want to look out for that. And if you want to participate, we will be sending out more information about that and the other webinars that we'll be doing for the rest of the season. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think we will just go ahead and end the webinar, and thank you, Sharon Hopkins, for hosting, and to all